Hi everyone, welcome to A String of the Past. My name is Michelle and I am excited to share some of the crafty things that I've been up to over the last month with you. This month, spoiler alert, it is mostly cross stitch. I just did Stitch Mania and it was my first time ever, and I am fairly new to cross stitch if you are recently joining me. If you are, welcome by the way. So I was really eager to get a whole bunch of things started so that I could have a whole bunch of projects on the go, a whole bunch of things that I can just bring forward with me into like fun cross stitch games and challenges and all that kind of thing. So I thought Stitch Mania 2021 would be a good opportunity to do that. So I have lots of little bits of projects to show you, lots of just, teensy bits of progress, but I hope that you are excited to see lots of different patterns and the potential that is there. So it's the beginning of June. It's been very hot here in Alberta the last few days. We are really lucky to live near a lake in our neighborhood, so we've been spending a few days there in the afternoon after work, which is a really nice way to get the kids outside and just enjoy the outdoors, get a little bit of sunshine. So that's been really, really nice. And the school year is quickly wrapping up. Again, if you are a newer viewer, I am a teacher. I teach junior high school, and it's been quite the wild ride this year. I've been very happy to be part-time this year because I feel like I still work pretty much full-time being part-time, and I think I would probably be going a little crazy if I was full-time. So yeah, it's been a crazy year of back and forth between in-person and online learning. I think in my last video I shared that we were just kind of getting started to go online again, and we had, I think, 3 solid weeks of students being online. They've been back in the classroom for a week and a half, so I'm really glad that we get to end off the school year together and be able to just kind of send the kids off from seeing them in person and then being able to see their friends. And yeah, it's always better to have kids in the classroom, I think. And so, yeah, gearing up for September. It's a weird time of year to be a teacher because you have a very, very long to-do list of things to do to wrap up one year, and you are already kind of 1 foot planted in next year, starting to think and plan and imagine what next year is going to be like. Normally I like to start out my videos, since my channel is called A String of the Past, I like to share a string of the past, which is usually something that I've made or a family member of mine has made or a gift that I've been given that is crafty related. But today I wanted to share a string of the future, partly because I just want to get to my huge pile of projects to show you. But really excitingly, next year I have a really cool opportunity to develop a new option class for my students in grades 7 to 9 that is going to involve what currently is kind of the computer, digital technology, that kind of course, and I get to add in some things that I really love, like needlework and knitting, and think about making it kind of a design class that kind of incorporates both digital technology and hands-on kind of mediums, and basically do a lot of the things that I really love to do myself, to create projects, to plan projects, to reflect on the process of making projects, to perhaps make videos like I'm doing right now. Maybe my own video editing skills will go up a notch because of what I learned by teaching these students, but I am really, really excited for what's ahead. So I hope that maybe I'll even have some opportunities on my channel to share some of the projects that my students have made. Maybe I'll be able to just kind of tell you how exciting it is to see a new generation of kids just get excited about crafting and making projects and just finding some purpose and finding a lot of joy in it as well. So really, really excited about that. So yeah, that is coming up, and it's really, really hard for me to stick to my current school to-do list, the pile of marking that I need to do, the exams that I need to get prepared for these students, when I'm just so excited about what's coming up in September, and the fact that I think we all need a really nice fresh start in September with things being so much less complicated hopefully, than they've been this year. It's been quite a ride this year. So yeah, that is what's coming up. So I'll quickly do my knitting segment right away because it's going to be very, very short. I worked on the socks that you would have seen last time. I think last time I shared them a whole month ago. When I say them, I still mean just the one March sock. And when I say March, I mean, yeah, the third pair of socks that I've been working on for this year, for 2021. Aiming to do a pair of socks every month. Maybe when it's summer holidays, I'll get caught up. So this sock is called the Dreamweaver sock. The designer is Anna Campos. The yarn, I feel like it kind of blends into my shirt here, is by Yarn Inc. And the last time I showed it, I think I was just kind of starting the pattern part here where there's like a little cable pattern. So I did a few rows this month, but obviously that's a pretty tiny amount of sock to do. I also probably towards the end of the month was like, oh no, I'm not gonna have a whole lot of knitting to show on my episode. So I did a couple of rows of the Weekender sweater, which I think I started around the end of January. And again, as you'll see how many projects I have on the go right now, it's unsurprising that I haven't done very much on this. But excitingly, I did do those couple of rows, or at least some of them, while my kids were playing in the backyard and I was sitting on the deck. And you know, things are gonna hopefully pick up in that department a little bit this summer. I might actually get time to do a few things here and there while my kids entertain each other and start to play nicely together. I think when I worked on these couple of rows, I only got interrupted on average maybe every 4 minutes to get snacks and to solve conflict and to get things and do things. My daughters are 4 and 2, so they still require a lot of intervention when they're playing together, but trying to find those little moments where I'm, one, encouraging them to just build a lovely bond as sisters together, but also just try to capitalize on those tiny few moments here and there. I know I've been asked, how do you find time to do crafts and how do you find time to do these things when you have a job and kids? And I think I'm finding the key is that you have to just take those little moments. You may not have a whole lot of time each day to work on things, but 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, it does add up quite nicely. So that's a teeny tiny bit more progress on this sweater. But in general, I think if I do have some time to sit down with this and I do make this one a priority again, it'll probably grow really quickly because it's worsted weight and it's on some bigger needles. Also, I don't have a whole lot of purchases of any kind to show you this month. I bought a fair bit of just DMC floss that you'll probably see throughout my new starts of projects. And I did actually excitingly buy a crafting light, an Ott light from Michaels. I noticed they were on clearance when I was there about a month ago, and I've never seen them on clearance before. I don't know why. I don't know if it was certain locations only. I don't know if they're completely getting rid of them. I don't know if there's a new bunch of them coming in or what the deal was, but it was a really good price. I thought I would jump on that, and it has been really helpful. It's the time of year when there is quite a bit of daylight, but I find even as it starts to get kind of dusky, that really does help to turn that on. So I'm sure I'm going to really enjoy that light a lot when the days get shorter again, which hopefully is not for quite some time. But really excitingly, even though I didn't buy a lot of things that I'm going to show you on this episode, I won my first ever giveaway on Instagram, like ever. I've entered tons, and I was so excited to win 2 skeins of yarn that I got to choose, which is awesome, from Sassy Strings Yarn Studio, which is quite close to me in Airdrie, Alberta. So thank you so much, Sassy Strings. I think Tracy is the name of the lovely lady who runs that company. I chose 2 skeins of sock yarn. This green color is called Wilderness, and it is super pretty. And this color is called Lucky Penny. So it's kind of a reddish brown, coppery color. So nice. And a big shout out to my friend Jen, who I actually work with, who had tagged me in that post, and that is why I won. So thank you so much, Jen. She is, I should maybe check with her before I advertise that she also has a crafty YouTube channel called Sheer Madness YYC, and yeah, she shows lots of knitting, and she is also an incredible quilter as well. So feel free to check her out if she says I can include this. So yeah, cross stitch. Here we go. I'm gonna try to start at the beginning. I didn't make show notes. I have my epic spreadsheet where I've been trying to keep track of my projects, the designer, the fabric that I need, the floss, and where I'm storing it, and all those kinds of things. So I printed it off quickly so that I can refer to it, but it printed really tiny. So my apologies. I may need to edit some things out, especially as I manage this gigantic basket of projects and all the zipping that's gonna happen when I open all of these. I will try my best to make really detailed show notes in case I miss anything, because inevitably I will, but I'll try to share as much as I can about each project. So this was my first Stitch Mania, and probably the last one that I will ever do the number of projects for the year that it is. I know there's lots of different ways that people do Stitch Mania. This was my first time participating. I had only heard of it last year, and so I just really wanted to start a whole bunch of things. I have seen all these fun challenges and groups and things that are kind of centered around working on your many different cross-stitch projects, and I, of course, being kind of new-ish to cross-stitch, have discovered a lot of designers and a lot of patterns that I really like. So I've been quickly acquiring the materials for them, and it's kind of fun to just have them started instead of having a big stack of fabric sitting there that you then have to kind of sort through. It's like, I bought this for this project, just gonna start it, and now it's kind of all be together. So initially I had planned on kitting everything up, and I realized really quickly that that was a lot of floss to buy, especially for some of the humongous full coverage ones that I have. So I thought, for Stitch Mania, it's not like I'm going to get very far in each project. So I thought maybe I'll just buy like a handful of floss for each one, and then when I circle back to them a little bit later, then I can really take time to kit each one up. So you'll see a few things that might make the experienced cross-stitcher cringe a little bit as you see my projects. One of those things is that because I only worked on each of these for, you know, maybe a day or two, and a couple of them maybe 3, I just started with the floss by just, it's mostly DMC that I use, so I just pulled it really gently from the skein from the bottom so that it didn't tangle. And then what I did with the floss that I had left over, and this is like so cringy, perhaps, I just like tied it back on with a knot and just left it like that. So, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry to the cross-stitch people who are like, that is not how you take care of your floss. I know that it's not. I will probably put it on bobbins. A couple of projects, as you can see, because they were perhaps kitted or using different kinds of floss, use like the floss cards or tags, and I do kind of like that, but I have a lot of floss on bobbins, so I don't really know how to make that leap if I choose to do that on my projects. Maybe I have to start doing that with some smaller projects where there's not as many colors. But anyway, this is not the first project that I want to show you. Let me try to figure out in order that I started them, because I also have my planner with all the projects in order, as I tend to do, and I wanted to show them to you in that order. So I will try to figure out where I need to start from. Okay, so this is project number 1. This is full coverage. It is by Cross Stitch Collectibles, is the designer, I believe. Gonna need to refer to the tiny little print here. Yes, Cross Stitch Collectibles, and it is a painting by, I think it's Van Gogh, but am I wrong? I am wrong. Is it Monet? It's one of those two because I really like them both. I want to say it's Monet. I think that Cross Stitch Collectibles had a whole bunch of his paintings turned into patterns. So this one, and although once upon a time I spoke some pretty fluent French and I have taught French, I don't fully know how to pronounce the name of this town, I think in France, that it was painted at. It is called Flowers at Vetheuil, I don't know, je ne sais pas. This is gonna be this beautiful floral garden with a lot of really pretty colors in it, but I started in the corner, and the corner colors are all very, very neutral. Here's another deeply shame-filled bundle of floss with tied-on little knots. Not super exciting colors to start with. And this is about how far I got. Not super far. This is on Easy Count, I think, or Easy Grid. I don't know if those are two different things. These are things I should probably learn a little bit better. Okay, so this is being stitched on 25 count Easy Grid Lugana, and I think, could be wrong, but because of the orange in the stripe here, it means it's by Zweigart. 25 count, really enjoying that. I started my other full coverage that I had done in January on 18 count because it was a golden kite and it has blended colors, so I needed to be able to use 2 strands, which would be a little bit too thick on 25 count, but I'm really enjoying the 1 strand on 25 count. So that might be something that I continue, and maybe I already have. Okay, project number 2. So that I started on May 2nd because I filmed my previous podcast on May 1st. Then I think I worked on it for a couple of days in a row because I was excited, trying to kind of figure out how to pace my 21 starts. Sometimes I started them pretty rapidly all in a row, and sometimes I left a couple days in between. So the next one was May 4th. I started Kindness and Fortitude, which is by Modern Folk Embroidery, one of my faves. And I'm really excited about this one. It is just a single color, and it is in a bag that is not opening very well. Okay, here's the open bag. It is on this lovely kind of dark blue fabric. It's almost kind of denim-like, and I got pretty excited about this one, so I think I worked on it a couple of different times. I did start a new project the next day, but I must have gone back to it because this looks like more than a day worth of work. So this is my first experience, I believe, with Sulky thread, and I bought a bunch of it from 123 Stitch a while back. So this is, the color on it says 1071, so it's kind of just an off-white, and I am really enjoying using it so far. I think I've heard other people say this, but I do love how you just unroll a piece and you just start stitching with it. You don't have to separate the strands, you don't have to try to kind of untangle them and unravel them. It's great. So I'm interested to see how long one spool of this lasts, how many of these it actually takes to stitch this project, but I'm really liking this so far. The fabric, I don't think I mentioned what it is yet. It is Weeks Dye Works Twilight, and I don't know. I'm sure I have something here. It is 36 count. So yeah, I think it goes this way. Yeah, that's the correct way. So that's the top corner. Really like that one. And I'm going to try not to say every single time, I can't wait to work on this one some more, because let me just blanket that for all of these projects. I can't wait to work on every single one of them some more. Okay, on the 5th of May, I started Deck the Halls, which is a Satsuma Street pattern that I bought a good year and a half ago probably. Still really like it. Based on the Satsuma Street Instagram, I think there's some pretty exciting things that look like they're coming out soon. So, you know, might need to finish some of these things before I buy even more things, but that's the problem that I'm sure many of you watching have right along with me. So yeah, I got just a little bit of this done. This was one of the first projects that I actually bought fabric for, so I just went right along with the called for fabric, which is 28 count raw natural Cashel linen. I got just a tiny bit. You can see the first little box at the top here has a big star in it, and so I got just a tiny bit of the outline of the star done. Oh man, the light is really in a weird spot right now through my window. It's like just about to go down behind some houses, so I hope it doesn't get too dark in here. Let me just try to figure out how to show you this so you can actually kind of see it. And of course it's a nice big long piece of fabric because it's going to be a bell pull. Oh boy, that's not great. My apologies. It's gonna hopefully, it's either gonna get a little bit better in a couple minutes or it's gonna get much, much worse. But this is real life. So again, using DMC Floss for that one, all called for colors. And I think that is one of the few that I have kind of fully kitted up with all the correct colors already. Okay, the next day, on the 6th, I started a small pattern that I bought on Etsy probably roughly a year ago, right when the pandemic started. And I was just starting to really get into cross stitch and researching a whole bunch of patterns and things. And I had a conversation with some friends over Zoom one night back when Zoom was still kind of a novelty and people were doing a little bit more socializing over it before we all got, I think, too sick of meeting on Zoom for all kinds of reasons. And we were just, I don't know, chatting, hanging out, and talking about how much we love Parks and Rec and what a great show it is. And so I found this pattern on Etsy. The designer's called Plastic Little Covers. And I just realized I don't want to show you the pattern because I paid for it. Maybe I'll insert a picture. It's pretty small. It is a reference to Little Sebastian, so if you're a diehard Parks and Rec fan, you'll know what that's about. And in my mind, when I bought it, I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cute if I made one for each of these girls? Because we had just had this conversation about how much we love the show. And, you know, if I did it now, I don't think any of us would remember that particular conversation or why it was so funny. But anyway, I will at least make one for myself, but maybe if I get ambitious, I will one day make one for those lovely friends who truly deserve a cross-stitch gift, but would definitely need a huge refresher as to why it was a significant reference. Oh my goodness, that sun is like unbelievable. I have blinds, let me just go adjust those. I'll be right back. Okay. Hopefully it's still decent lighting for a little bit. I think it's like minutes away from just sinking down between buildings. So anyway, this is Bye Little Sebastian by Little Plastic Covers on Etsy. I was thinking because it was, you know, like just this small little pattern that maybe I would just do it on Ada or some extra fabric that I had. And then I found that I had this piece of 32 count Storm Lugana, and I think the colors in the pattern will look really good on it. So I thought, I'm just gonna go for it. It's probably way too big for what the pattern is, so I should be able to get something else out of it as well. And there is the first bee in Bye Little Sebastian. So again, probably one small evening worth of work. I've been trying to get a little caught up on my marking simultaneously while I've been also doing Stitch Mania. So even though I've done a little tiny bit of cross stitch every day, sometimes it has really only been a teeny tiny bit. Okay, my next start was on May 7th, and this was what I mentioned in my last video, my cross stitch pattern buying fail. It's not horrible to work on, but I just feel really guilty that I bought a pattern from Amazon that I probably shouldn't have and that I didn't realize was not a great way to do that. So I won't be doing it again, but since I unknowingly did buy this kit, I figure I may as well use it. It is called Return from Christmas. This is where I kind of got my first taste of what a floss tag kind of system might be like. This has a lot of, oh my goodness, so many colors, and it's pretty crazy. But I did kind of enjoy getting the floss this way. I do kind of like the fact that there's probably roughly the right amount for each color. Hopefully I don't end up too short on anything, because that seems like it would be a pain. Part of the reason I think I hesitated to buy this Amazon kit because it was a very good price, and it did seem kind of too good to be true, and now I understand why. But I thought I would take a look at the reviews, and in the reviews, you know, it had really good reviews, which is kind of surprising, but maybe it's less experienced people that tend to buy these, I don't really know. Anyway, it had pretty good reviews, and I feel like a few people were like, oh yeah, it's DMC floss that they use. And based on, I don't know, maybe I'm the really inexperienced one who doesn't know what I'm talking about, but just even the way that I threaded the needle, it was like, this doesn't quite feel like all my other projects, so I don't know about that. So I decided to start in the middle of this one. I've been getting in the habit of starting my projects kind of from the top left corner when I know that I have tons of fabric, but when I know that there's like only just the right amount of fabric and I want the borders to definitely be kind of even all the way around and not to run out of space, I have been starting a couple of them in the middle. So this is one of the ones that I started in the middle. I think it goes this way. I think I only did like 3 or 4 strands of floss. When I worked on it, it was fine and I enjoyed it, but I would say probably out of all of these projects, this is probably not the one that I'm the most eager to get back to, just because it's on this really stiff, obviously inexpensive Aida. The floss clearly isn't that nice. The paper pattern might be a little bit challenging to work from. It's like a big full coverage thing, and I'm now really spoiled with a lot of other things on Pattern Keeper, so you know, I intend to finish it. My intentions are great. It's gonna maybe be good. But yeah, I'll talk in a few minutes too about how I plan to carry forward on each of these. So that was Return from Christmas. Don't buy it on Amazon, don't be like me. Next I started Unicorn Tapestry, which I also have had kitted up for a little while. So this is by Tiny Modernist. I also bought this on paper. Love the colors in it. I got the called for fabric and all the called for DMC flosses. The fabric is 32 count. I may have gotten 32 instead of 28, but the color is Splash by Picture This Plus, and I started in the middle on this one as well, just because the fabric is not huge and I think it'll kind of just fit. So I kind of worked on the top of this tree over here, and the white is kind of, this is like the ear of that unicorn on that side, and then these are some of the little orange flowers beside the tree. If you can see those, I'll hold it a little bit closer. So fun, that will be great to return to. For the patterns that I have on paper, because I just spent so little time, the hot mess of my floss being tied on like this also just coincided with my paper patterns. I just jumped right in and I didn't mark anything off on them, especially if they were something that I couldn't print off, that I have like an actual hard copy of. When I kind of circle back to them at some point, I'm gonna try to make myself a working copy and just like get myself a little bit more organized with each one as I come to them again. But hopefully what I did to start out with won't be that big of a deal to go back and just check off, okay, these are the stitches I did, and then carry on from there. Starting 21 things in a month. I will probably never ever do that again, but it was fun to do it one time. Okay, next was a pattern called Early Bird and Cherry Blossom, and it was actually a free pattern that I got from Caterpillar Cross Stitch, and I think it was just by signing up for their newsletter. You get a little ebook of patterns, and there's some really cute ones in there. So I needed to like tone it down a little bit and not do like all crazy huge full coverage things. So this one's going to be nice and small. This is on 32 count Silver Moon Belfast linen, a small piece that I bought, and I just did this little chunk of yellow stitches, nothing terribly exciting. I'm not even 100% sure if it's this way or that way, because again, I'll have to really go back and print that off and look at it. I think for this one I just brought it up on my phone and just looked at it that way, knowing that I would come back to it again. Yeah, I'll try and put a picture of it in because it is really, really cute and I love the colors in it, and hopefully it'll be a nice quick one, and maybe one day you'll actually see me finish something. Maybe it'll have to be something smaller like that. Okay, so that was on May 11th. Then I started another massive project on May 12th, one that I've had in mind for a while, one that's quite popular that I'm sure you've seen before, another one that uses Sulky floss, and I have a lot of it. This one is in a really beautiful, vibrant blue color. The color number on here is 1253. Yeah, very nice. That's not even all I have. And what I'm doing on here with that floss is the ever popular Long Dog Samplers Pandemic. I managed to snag that one when it was offered for free last year. If I hadn't, I would still buy it because it would be worth it. And I have done this very exciting corner right here. I have that one on Pattern Keeper, so that is very nice. And yeah, there's probably more stitches in there than it actually looks like because it's 2 rows thick kind of all the way around so far. So not too bad of a start. I think I only worked on it, maybe did it 2 different days this month because it was such a huge one. Okay, next up, May 14th. I think this is almost the halfway point. This is Madame Chantilly Celebrate Spring. So this is again one that I bought a hard copy of. It looks like this, one of the cake trays. There's quite a few in this series for lots of different seasons and holidays. So that one's called Celebrate Spring. I was kind of surprised. Sometimes photos, you just never know. It says that the called for fabric is just a raw linen. It kind of looked like a gray. So I bought the called for. I can see how it probably is that, but it does look just, mine obviously looks a lot more brown than in the photo, but I think the colors will look great on it. And I just did one color of green and just did some stems of flowers. I think that's the right direction. It's just the little stems of these flowers right here. So that one's gonna be great. I need to buy quite a few more of the flosses for that one. I think this was one where I did just anticipate I probably wouldn't get very far in it, and I think I only bought a couple of the call for colors on that one. So I'll have to kit that one up later on. Next, I started another paper pattern. This one is by, I hope that I pronounce this somewhat correctly, Kyoko Maruoka, and her company or designs are called Gira with an exclamation mark. I should be very excited when I say it, but I'm just so unsure of the pronunciation that I'm like, can't say that with excitement because that would also mean that I'm really confident, and I'm not really confident in how to say that. This is called Pride and Prejudice. It is also full coverage, but it's fairly tiny and really cute. I like the colors in it. A little bit different than some of the other ones that I've done, but I like that it's called Pride and Prejudice. I like the literary kind of theme. Just in case you saw that little glimpse of the pattern. It would be really fun to have a whole bunch of book-themed cross-stitch patterns somewhere near a bookshelf in my house one day. This is a piece of 36 count granite Edinburgh linen. It was a pretty small piece. I probably bought it because it was on sale, or it seemed inexpensive because it's so small. And I think that if a little hint of the fabric around the edge shows when I frame it or whatever I do with it, it'll look nice altogether. So instead of doing it just on plain white, I decided to do it on here, but it is full coverage, so it'll be mostly covered up. So I did 3 different shades of green on there, and I feel like I might have worked on it. I either worked on it 2 days or I did it on a weekend or something, because this was one where I felt like I actually made a little more progress. I think it was maybe a Saturday, and perhaps I was able to stitch when my kids were having some nap time and quiet time in the afternoon and in the evening, because this was one that I remember feeling like, oh yeah, I got pretty far on that. And then the next day, which was the 16th, I started another one that I actually got a reasonable amount done considering the month that this was. And the reason that I got a lot done is probably threefold. One, I just really like it and it's a great pattern. 2, it's on Pattern Keeper, so it's really easy to keep track of. And 3, it is just so intuitive the way that you build into it. So a couple of times when we were still doing online school, and I had a few classes where students would come online and they would have a work period and it would be over Zoom, and they could ask me questions if they wanted, but they often didn't want to. I had a couple of occasions where I could kind of stitch while I was on Zoom. I also, maybe it's even fourfold, have all of the flosses that I need. So no matter what part I got to, I was never stuck for a color. So this is by Carolyn Manning Designs. This is one of her shooting stars meant to look like a quilt. Oh, I really like how that's looking on there. This is on 40 count mallow, so that was my first experience with that fabric. And if you don't know about 40 count mallow, it is I think a blend of cotton and linen. I've heard something about this recently, but it's not pure linen, so it makes it a little bit more cost effective. And 40 count means that your stitches are a little smaller. If you're stitching over 2, you're gonna have 20 stitches in an inch, and so designs will fit on it. So I bought a huge piece of this because it was quite reasonable, and I've been able to cut it into a few different sizes. So I have a few projects that I'm starting on it. So I don't think I said, this one's called Desert Dawn in the Shooting Stars collection. Huge fan. I love that when you have it on Pattern Keeper and you click on a symbol, it'll start to show you, you kind of start in one spot, and then because of the way that it builds, you'll click on a symbol and it'll be like, okay, there's another little square over here attached to this part, and another little square down here attached to this part. And so it there's not a lot of counting in terms of like counting over and trying to make sure that you're in the right place away from something. It just all connects together, and so that makes it really quite addicting to work on. So I know I'm gonna return to this at some point, and I know whenever I kind of get back into this one, it's gonna be really hard to stop. I found that one a very very addicting sort of pattern to work on. So Desert Dawn, 40 count mallow, called for DMCs. I hope I've been saying all the things that I need to say about all these ones so far. Okay, next. This one is somewhat of a full coverage. I don't know if you would officially call it full coverage because it doesn't have background. It was a free pattern on Artisy at one point. I don't know if you're familiar with Artisy. They have a lot of really beautiful full coverage patterns. I bought a ton of them, and they do, I think every month, 2 free patterns. So I need to keep checking back for some of those to see if they are ones that I like, because this one was really beautiful. So this one is called Dahlias Print, And I'll try to maybe show a picture of it as well. This is on, I think it's Lugana. I think it is, this is on 25 count moss green Lugana. And I'm stitching over one, I think, because I remember doing really tiny stitches on here. Yes. So I don't know how well you'll see this. There's a darker green and then there's a lighter color that is quite similar to the fabric, but the way that it will be surrounded by other colors, that shouldn't be a problem. I think this will be a good background color for the project overall. It's got lots of more kind of warm colors in it, reds and yellows and stuff. So that is that one. Okay, here's a redo on this one because my husband just walked in the door and he turned on some different lights in here, so the lighting may have changed yet again. So this is Carolyn Manning Designs Flower Day Sal. Full disclosure, I also worked on it on June 1st a little bit, so this is Stitch Mania progress plus a day. So I got a few of the different colors in there. I was jumping around quite a bit. This was one where I bought just a few of the colors for it, and I really didn't do it in a very organized way. I probably just went to Michael's and pulled up the pattern and then chose a few at random, and I wasn't very strategic about which ones would fit in where. So there's a lot of little colors missing here and there that I'll need to add in later on. So when I get back to it, at whatever point that is, I'll have to be much more organized about getting the right floss for it, because at this moment, if I have just the flosses that I have, this one's not super fun to work on, but that's because of me and not at all because of the pattern. Okay, next was another gigantic, and this one is like truly gigantic, full coverage piece. I think it's even like the large size. It's from Artisy. It's called Night Colors by Leonid Afremov. I showed this pattern a couple of episodes back when I had bought the pattern, I think, and a few others from Artisy. This one, I did get the colors that were up in the top corner. I am excited about this one, especially compared to the very, very first full coverage piece that I started in January, where it is so confetti heavy that it is like sometimes every stitch is something a little bit different, and with blended colors too. So it is, I really just jumped in with both feet on that one. And when I look at this one on Pattern Keeper and I see like the huge blocks of the same colors, that feels like, okay, this one could go significantly faster. The colors in this one, there's actually 4 different ones. A bright blue, a regular 310 black, and then 2 different shades of navy. And maybe it's my inexperience, but I feel like some of them are so close together that I can't even really see the difference between some of the black and some of the navy when they're all squished together. But maybe that's the magic of this. Maybe it really does make a big difference, and I'll be very excited to see how that all pans out. So again, because this was a huge project, I think I only started it on the 21st, but I think I worked on it at least twice. And it was, again, one of those ones where I think my kids both napped one day, which is so rare for my 4-year-old daughter to have a nap, and she did at the same time as her sister, so I capitalized on that. Okay, then on the 22nd, I started Pumpkin Passport by the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. I bought a good handful of their patterns when they were having a sale at one point. I used the called for Picture This Plus Ale, but I got 28 count. I thought I got a higher count. I did not. And so not terribly exciting. I'm not sure if this was one of the Frosted Pumpkin Stitcher's year-long stitch-alongs. It would really make sense if it was, because I think there's little people from various countries around the world, and it would make sense that there are 12 of them and that it would have been released a month at a time throughout the year. So again, not terribly far on that. Looking forward to continuing on. Okay, on the 23rd, I started another Modern Folk Embroidery. This is getting a little dicey here, this leaning tower. I might need to start another pile, because wouldn't that be awful if I just all fell lower. This is a nice small one. This is again Modern Folk Embroidery, and it is called Oh Tidings of Comfort and Joy. Look how nice and small this piece of fabric is. How often do you see me hold up these small pieces? This is 32 count Phoenix Lugana. I think it's pictured as plus, and it will all fit on here. I think it's only like less than 100 by 100, maybe even significantly less. 95 by 65. So this is the width of it, and I got a few, like this is the full, yeah, the full width, and then it's 95 rows down. So I think I got like 4 or 5 full rows done, and there is actually quite a bit of blank space in it too. So that one could be super quick. I think Modern Folk Embroidery puts often like the total number of stitches in their patterns, which for somebody who likes to be organized and calculate stuff and keep track of things, really appreciate that. And I think it's only about 2,000 and some stitches, so that will be a breeze. I might almost, I kind of have a plan for how I want to work on my works in progress next year in 2022, and I almost don't want to finish it too quickly so that I can keep it in my rotation. So I almost have to like not work on it that much, which I mean clearly it will not be a problem. Okay, next I started another Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery one. This is Fibery Friends, and it is kind of knitting themed. It has sheep on it, has some knitting needles and yarn. The called for fabric, or at least the fabric that the sample is on, is kind of a deeper pinky purple, and I have this lighter pink fabric in my stash that in my head I thought was gonna work great, and I think it is gonna work great. However, I don't know how well you can see, there's this little heart at the top here, and as I was stitching it I was like, I don't know about that. I like the way the other colors look on it, but I think I need to go a shade or two darker on this. So I was looking at the list of DMC flosses and how some of the ones that are, you know, right next door number wise go like a shade or two darker. So I think that's probably what I'll do, is I'll just go 1 or maybe 2 shades darker, and I think all the other colors are going to work great on it. That was the only one that was kind of iffy. So out of everything that I've done, fingers crossed, I don't know, who knows when I get back to it, I think that little heart, it's probably only about 25 or 30 stitches. That's the only thing that I'm like, ooh, I think I'm gonna have to take that out and redo it, but not bad. So that fabric is 28 count Bittersweet by Lakeside Linens, and minus that little switch, I'm going to use the called for DMCs. Then on the 26th, I started another tiny modernist pattern. In my last video, I showed the Unicorn Tapestry and this one, which is the Stitch Goddess, and I showed them back to back. And as I was showing them, I was like, oh, there's some strong similarities there. And it was really funny. Someone in the comments on the last video said they were working on one of the two, I think it was Unicorn Tapestry, and said when they saw Stitch Goddess, they were going to recommend that one to me. So funny how, you know, there's so many patterns out there, but it's funny how people connect on certain ones and they just know. So this is Stitch Goddess. It's got lots of cute little flowers and animals and crafting kind of motifs. So I started this one up in the left corner over here, and I did a star and a center of a flower. I have to bring it up pretty close, I think, for you to see the big green stem. This is going to be a squirrel. I think these are, I don't even know, I think they're just geometric little squares. So this is on 32 count dwarf Belfast linen by Picture This Plus, which I believe is, I'm not sure if it's exactly what it's called for. Yes, it is. Okay. I'm not too adventurous in my fabric choices, as you can tell, and when I try to be, sometimes the colors don't look good. So sometimes, you know, the designers know what's up and maybe it's good to stick with them. I did decide that, and you know, there's room to change my mind for sure, but I did get hair color so that maybe she could be more blonde like me. I don't know, is that really self-centered to say that I am a stitch goddess and that she needs to look just like me? I don't know. Maybe I should just leave her with red hair. Maybe I will really regret that decision. If you have any thoughts on that, tell me what you think. Okay, on the 27th, I started a pattern called Sampler number 24. I bought it on Etsy. I think the designer is 2x2, like 2x2, something like that. Let me refer to my very tiny 2x2 stitch art is what it's called, and it is sampler number 24, and I have another pattern by them as well, so two birds with one stone on finding out their real name. So this is a monochromatic sampler. In their Etsy shop they have a whole bunch of them and they are all beautiful and very reasonable from what I remember. I want to say it was like less than $5 for this pattern. I should put a picture of it because clearly this little corner that I started will not do it justice. I spent quite a bit of time picking out the floss for this at Michael's and trying to base my decision on a color that they had enough of. I'm doing it on 40 count mallow, so I knew that it would be a pretty neutral color, so to pick any sort of kind of bold, vibrant color would probably work pretty well. My floss fell on the ground. So I picked 312. I definitely love blue. I'm sure you can probably tell that from some of my other choices. And I could feel myself like trying to step out of the box, trying to pick something else. And the blues just kept calling my name, and 312 had a lot of them in stock that I knew that I would be able to get enough in the same dye lot. So I grabbed a whole bunch. I really like how it's looking so far. It looks pretty similar to my pandemic start so far. The color even looks really, really similar, but in the end they are going to be really quite different patterns. Okay, two more. The next one is by the same designer and it's called Vintage Bouquet, and so I love florals, as you can probably also tell, and this one is just like a beautiful flower arrangement. Here's my awful floss in knots, and it's got really pretty colors in it, lots of blues and reds, but I started in the corner, and so everything that I did is in brown, but still really nice, still really fun. And this I am stitching on 32 count Silvery Moon Lugana. I think this might have been a leftover slice from another one of my projects, maybe from pandemic actually. And last but not least, another long dog. This is Game of Swans. I think I shared the pattern last week. It looks like this. And it is my first foray into fancy floss, as they say. So I'm using the called for flosses. When I bought them, they didn't have some of the colors, so I bought what I could at the time, and I have not revisited that. This is the Gentle Art sampler threads, I guess. I'm just, again, so new at this that I don't know my fancy floss. I don't know if each brand has different types of floss within their product lines or not, but so far so good. I'm using 2 strands at a time. I'm liking this floss card business. The ones that I've used so far, I have like unwound, I guess. I don't know what the right word is. So anyway, it comes like this, and then I've like unfolded it and reattached it like this so that I can just use my needle to kind of scoop off one, really losing it towards the end here, one strand, is that the word? Is it strand? So that I can just, scoop off one strand at a time. And I am quite pleased with it. I think my first couple stitches, I was like, I don't know, what's the big deal? Why is this so much more expensive? But I think in the end, I'm gonna really love the way that the colors look. And something about this just seems like the stitches lay nicer. I don't know if that's my imagination, if it's all in my head, but I feel like the way that the floss lays when you're stitching with it is really, really nice. So I think I worked on it twice, and I was questioning a little bit. This is kind of the start of the border. This is one of those patterns where there is quite a bit of counting to get to the different motifs. So the border will actually come over quite a bit this way, but I think I was just counting off of one of these existing things here. Again, because I don't have all the colors that I need, it wasn't the most enjoyable because the next logical thing to work on I sometimes didn't have the color for. But I was questioning the way that the border looked in the pattern compared to the color that it seemed to indicate with the symbol, and I was convinced that there must have been some kind of mistake on the pattern. To me, on the pattern sheet, a color looked kind of pinky, and then the symbol was showing green, and I thought, that just doesn't seem to make sense. Is there somewhere where it tells me what it's actually supposed to be? And I went on Instagram and I looked at some other people that have finished this pattern, and indeed theirs looks green and it looks great all around. So I was really concerned, and I obviously didn't need to be because Long Dog Samplers, total professional. There's no mistakes on there. Okay, that was Stitch Mania, and I am really excited to work on all of these. It was, as I anticipated, really fun, but also really hard to leave each project behind. I think I now, if I do some quick math, I think I'm now at about 33 total stitching projects, which is a lot. And not a single one of them have I felt bored of or frustrated with, or the need to move on for any other reason other than it's just fun to start another new thing. So there's really nothing that I'm like, oh, I'm gonna tuck that away and I don't really want to see it again. Everything is going to be great to return to. So because I am wrapping up the school year, I have about 2 and a bit weeks left of actual class time, and then it's exam time, and then I think about 3 weeks from today, everything has to be done pretty much, and then there's just a few days beyond that where the students come back for report cards and get awards and all that kind of thing, and we have some teacher days to wrap up, and then it's my summer holidays. So my plan over the summer is that I would like to touch all of the projects that I have started. I'd like to go back to each one, maybe have a chance to get it organized a little bit better. If there are some flosses that I'm missing, I'd like to, if not buy them, make a list of what I need and just keep track of it in some sort of way, because right now it's a little bit chaotic. If it is a paper pattern, I'd maybe like to make a copy of it. If it is something that I just looked at off of my phone and need to print off, then I'd like to do those things. So just get a little more organized, and even if everything doesn't end up fully kitted with all of the right supplies, I just want to know what the next step is in getting all the right materials. So I'd like to at least kind of touch each project, get it organized, and then my summer goal would be to get at least 1% further on every project. So with pattern keeper projects, that's really easy to keep track of. I have been a total weirdo and like counting my stitches each day and seeing how much I've accomplished even when things aren't on pattern keeper. That's pretty crazy, I know. But I've kind of made on my spreadsheet, if I don't know the exact number of stitches in a project, I've kind of made a rough estimate, sometimes by calculating like what the full, say it was full coverage, so you multiply height by width, and then I'll just kind of estimate, okay, it kind of looks like about 75% or 85% of that is covered, and I don't know how good I am at estimating that. If anything, I'm probably overestimating, but then I've kind of come up with the approximate number of stitches in the project. So I would like to get at least 1% on all of them. So for that little tiny modern folk embroidery tidings of comfort and joy, that would get done in like, I think 20 stitches if my math is about correct. And some of my bigger full coverage ones, it is closer to like 2,000 stitches, I think. So that could be a little bit challenging. We'll see how it goes, but that's my hope and my plan. And then if I get that done, then I can just kind of move on to whichever project captures my attention and I feel like working on the most. We have a couple of fun plans for the summer. It seems like things are going to start to open up here a little bit more, and that at least some more localized travel will be okay to do. So I'm hoping that some time away, some time off work, you will see some very exciting videos, particularly in July and August. Maybe keep your expectations low on my June wrap up, because definitely going to be doing a lot of schoolwork ahead of me. But yeah, I hope that wherever you're at, the weather is as lovely as it is here, and I hope that you have lots of exciting projects to keep you busy like I do. We'll see you guys next time, and hopefully any cloud of stress that you might see over me will be completely lifted at the end of June. So keep those needles moving, have a great month, and I'll see you guys next time.